Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Kevin Roebuck. I'm part of the education and research team here at Oracle, and today I'd love to talk to you about the work that we're doing here at Oracle in mobility and the next decade of innovation, specifically around universities, but this applies to a lot of different industries and hopefully a lot of different job opportunities for you guys here in the near future. So let's jump right in, okay? What's your favorite app, right? It was 10 years ago or so that Steve Jobs stood on stage and announced the iPhone. And since then, we've all been downloading, managing, uploading apps on our phones like crazy. And while Apple and Google have sold, millions and billions of apps, we've each got, 10, 30, 40, 50, 100 apps on our phones. And while they've been great, there's a lot of new interesting things happening. And I'd like to kind of walk you through some of the areas of innovation that Oracle's working on today. Key elements that we kind of consider in the world that we live in is mobile is the first screen for everything. And there's nobody that knows that better than students, right? So mobile is the design center for everything that we do. And I think the statistics bear out that almost everybody has a smartphone, everybody will have a smartphone, and this is the way that we get access to all kinds of information and services, go shopping, access our school, chat with our friends, and it's ubiquitous, it's addictive. We all walk around staring at the phone and sometimes walk into the wall because we don't even know where we're going. We're so busy staring at the phone. So they're very compelling devices. They're great. We love them. And there's a lot more interesting things that are about to happen. One of the things that we try to do at Oracle is help make those experiences fantastic and immersive. And a key to that sometimes, or many times, is data. Data is what drives great personalized experiences. It's all about giving you, the end user, the student, the parent, the teacher, anyone, right, the right message at the right time at the right place. Really trying to deliver you actionable value that's relevant to you, content in context to your situation. Really try to deliver that across multiple screens. We call it sort of a transmedia experience. So whether it's a watch, whether it's your phone, a tablet, a game machine, a television, a car, these are the platforms that we all interact with, and we expect that same kind of experience across those different platforms. And we expect a beautiful, rich media, fluid-like experience across the different applications and processes and things that we need to do. So that's the key design point for being successful. And it's important to note that that's not just engineers that help us do that. We need great creative people, artists, designers, people who can help create experiences that people can relate to and that are contextual. So things are about to change. We've had this 10-year experience. We've sold a lot of apps. We've got tons of apps on campus, for example, but none of them really talk to each other. You can't download one app and open up the next app, and it knows where you were in the last app. There's lots of different what we call silos on campus or in any company, lots of applications that drive the company, and we need to kind of break those down, and we know that there's something bigger happening now than just mobile apps. So this next era that we're in, the next decade of mobile experience that we talk about, is bringing together a number of different trends. The first is really around messaging, right? We all do a lot more messaging probably than we do apps. So the most popular apps being things like WhatsApp, Snapchat, Kik, Facebook Messenger, dozens of them out there. And these are the primary ways that you guys all communicate, right? You'd rather chat than talk on the phone or do email or have a conversation, any of those kinds of things. So messaging is a great medium because it's easy to use, it's contextual, it's fun, it's easy. And so that's a very powerful new platform, not just an app. It's a platform that we can build things on top of. And one of those things that we're building is the notion of chatbots, computer programs that act like people, essentially. They're virtual assistants that take over many of the tasks that apps used to do and orchestrate that across many of the different devices. And you probably have some examples, maybe chatting with a phone company, with a cable company, maybe with your campus. But companies are starting to deploy chatbots for self-service, and environments like that. So a great new job opportunity in that space. There's also a new medium called augmented and virtual reality, right? So bringing in sort of the digital world and overlaying it on top of the camera on your phone to overlay data, offers, insights, virtual models that bring those two different physical and virtual together through things like head-mounted displays like HoloLens, Oculus Rift, or just purely through the screen on your phone. And then there are cases where just apps don't work. I just want to do a one-off interaction. I just want to ask a question. There's things around the Internet of Things or the physical web that we just might not use an app to try to interact with. And I'll show you what some of those examples are. So we feel that sort of this next wave, the next killer apps, as we might say, will be chatbots. And a great way to think about that is every 10 or 15 years, we go through one of these big transitions in computing, whether it was from green screens in the 40 or 50 years ago to the emergence of the Macintosh and the metaphor of the desktop, where you move things around and sort of interact with the computer as a desktop, to the mobile experience, to now the notion of a conversational interface. You really only have to speak to your phone to get answers to questions, to explore the digital universe. And that interface is backed by very powerful new technologies known as artificial intelligence and machine learning. Great new opportunity in the computer science and engineering departments to learn about things like natural language processing and how you can create intent and learning about intent and creating experiences on the mobile phone based on just a natural conversation. We've built a demo application, so if you have Facebook Messenger, you can go on there, do a search for Oracle Campus Bot, and see what it's like to interact with a university, just a demo university, by asking simple questions about your fees, your classes, you want to add or drop courses, things like that, and you kind of see it in action if you haven't already tried that before. In general, we talk about two broad categories of bots. There are task-oriented bots, which you can think about as kind of like an FAQ, or frequently asked questions. I want to check my bank balance. I want to see what my subscription is on my cable TV system. Very simple ask and query, or query and response-based model. The other model, which is really more powerful, is the notion of a data-driven model that uses machine learning. So it looks for patterns in questions that other people have asked, and it makes kind of proactive recommendations. It's literally a virtual assistant monitoring different properties on the network, different things you have to do, your calendar, your things that are upcoming, deliverables that you might have, homework, or you've got a project you've got to complete. A chatbot virtual assistant will keep on top of those things and remind you of key deadlines and things you need to get done. So a very powerful model for helping people move about their day and be productive. We've built a couple examples of these kinds of technologies. One is called Oracle Campus Bot. I mentioned you can try that out on Facebook. And we've also built a mobile application that we're using to showcase to different universities about the power of this kind of technology. And I mentioned that those required are both technical as well as those in design. For the engineers that might be listening and people who are interested in architectural diagrams, this is just kind of a view of what the technology stack looks like. So at the very top, you see kind of a sampling of different kinds of devices that users may be using, from a watch or tablet, desktop or phone, how they go through different digital channels. So it might be messaging, it might be voice, it might be web traffic, and then how you integrate with different applications through things called SDKs, which are software development kits. And these are software toolkits that help designers build interfaces into these back-end services, data services, and shape data coming from different enterprise applications to make people productive, whether it's here in business or on campus. The most popular ones that we have been showcasing is the notion of a platform API that we have in our set using location-based services. So we all use maps on our phone, and they're great for finding our way to things and kind of showing us around what's close to us. But there's a lot more potential in in this technology, and one of those areas is called geofencing. So it's this notion of being able to mash up data, content, for example, with the location that you're based at. And my favorite example of this is the case of a museum. And for many, many years, if you went to any kind of museum, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, for example, and you check in at the front and they might give you literally a tape deck, and you listen to that tape deck as you sequentially walk in a very prescripted linear path through the museum or a particular exhibit. Well, that was helpful many moons ago, as they say, but this is a whole different model where based on your location, the network will deliver up content based on what particular piece of art you may be looking at, the history of that particular artist, why that painting was created, some background about it, maybe some supplementary digital images about the design approach and the tools that the artist actually used on that particular piece of work. So lots of use cases to look at around how using location, mashing it up with business or educational data to deliver a great mobile experience. One of the ways that we use location services is the notion of the Internet of Things. So devices that monitor things, so video cameras or items on campus that we can use to capture location or the location of things and track them. So this is a very powerful technology used in manufacturing industries and retail industries, goods industries, where they want to track inventory from all of the different component pieces during the manufacturing processes, the way that it's transported out to market till eventually you buy it on the shelf at the store. And so we use Oracle's Internet of Things cloud service to connect to those devices, to integrate those devices into a process workflow using Oracle Cloud Services like Integration Cloud Service or our Data Cloud Service, and then deliver them through mobile devices. So in education, we often use the Raspberry Pi device. It's a very cheap, inexpensive, programmable device that you can learn Java on. And I know Oracle Academy and Oracle Foundation do a lot of work to help make those toolkits and devices available in schools and curriculum to help you learn Java and object-oriented programming to participate in these kinds of scenarios that industry is rapidly deploying and using. One of the things that we've realized in our design center is that really these technologies have become what we say ubiquitous, which means they're everywhere. So we're all connected. Everybody's got a mobile phone. And we want to explore this notion of a virtual world that exists around physical spaces. So building on that idea of where am I and what's around me from a data perspective, we also want to deliver this sort of consumer space or virtual world space around those physical spaces. So the most popular example of this was the Pokemon Go project a few years back, the game that sent everybody through parks chasing after Pokemons on their phone and trying to discover these locations. But augmented reality is a very powerful new medium of overlaying the digital world on top of the physical world and delivering these kinds of immersive experiences. So we see some of this in a number of different industries at Oracle. One is around field service, where people get trained to go out and fix broken equipment. And in the past, they might have to bring along a lot of manuals and documentation and have to read through it. New people had to go through all kinds of week and 2-week courses to learn all this stuff. Well, that's all changing because now you can use augmented reality to bring up literally a virtual field service guide and show all the components that are on that particular product and help the field service technician diagnose the problem right on site with a mobile phone and order up that part to have it fixed. So those first two pictures are sort of a field service agent fixing some kind of broken device, seeing how it worked. Actually, at Oracle Open World, which is our big conference, we showed a Yamaha motorcycle and how all the components of the bike, from suspension to fluids to the mechanics, the drivetrain and engine, you could monitor in real time. And an engineer, or actually the end user, the person who owns the bike, could literally diagnose problems with the bike and have those parts ordered up and just pick them up at the shop and their bike would be ready to go. But you'll see this a lot in the retail industry, ways to design and showcase where my products would sit, how would that look. So designers and artists are using this kind of technology. We also see it in travel. And of course in education. So maybe instead of dissecting that real frog, you might only have to do that on a virtual frog, which in my case I know I'll enjoy. I did not enjoy my physiology class and dissecting that dead cat. So I'm hoping students now get to do that on a virtual cat instead of what we had to do back in my class. The other really cool technology you may already be using, for the gaming experience is virtual reality. VR has been around for quite a number of years, but we're getting to a price point where the headset displays and the computational power required behind VR is getting much, 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 much cheaper. So this is an example of a startup company, and Oracle's been working with a number of startups and investing in student-based startups coming out of universities. Most of the time, that's where these startups come from, is the great ideas that you guys have. And this was a startup accelerator member coming out of England, and it's called the Nano Simbox. And here's the URL. You can jump online and go and check it out. They've created a really cool environment for exploring and visualizing science, primarily the physical sciences, so biology, chemistry, physics, and it's really cool. You can go into these immersive environments and see atomic properties and designs and chemicals and actually use it to better understand the technology, but also use it to better understand the implications for industry. And so Interactive Scientific has been connecting up a project in Bristol, England, with the local industry economy, so that when the students graduate from high school and move into Bristol University, they'll have really career and job-ready skills because of the advanced capabilities that virtual reality presents. So we're working on this both from our compute cloud, so the rendering and the computational elements, rendering that on our compute grid, but then we also integrate this through our mobile platform as well. So that's a little bit about kind of the virtual and augmented virtual reality space or augmented reality space. The other technology that we've just started working with, even though it's been around already about 8 years now, and a fascinating story of how it came to be around the financial crisis back, about 8 years ago. And something that the internet was really never designed to do. When Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web, it was really about sharing information primarily. And the web and URLs, right, and www transformed the way that we communicate. Well, that was phenomenal and a great business opportunity and drove the economy for the last 20, 25 years with browsers and things like that. Now there's a new technology called blockchain, and I encourage you all to take a look at this next revolution in a peer-to-peer system on the network that is a ledger that keeps track of transactions and builds the notion of trust. There's an old saying, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. It was a cartoon, actually, from many years ago. Well, using blockchain, everybody knows you're a dog, and this is the way that we're now constructing ways that people can transact value between each other. And the most popular example is Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And while that's sort of a killer app, you can use blockchain for all kinds of records, driver's license, in fact, the student records that you have. You're going to collect grades and collect credentials and maybe take a MOOC course or maybe get a vocational certificate, or maybe you speak French because your folks do and you've learned it. Well, all those are assets that can be collected in your blockchain account. And we're actually starting to work with some schools to build a student credentialing or faculty credentialing system. If you're an artist, you can use it to create a digital asset like a movie or a song. And then you can put it on a blockchain and create smart contracts around it, share that digital material, and create rules for how that digital content is created. So it's a very powerful decentralizing technology that puts power back into the hands of creators. I'm a big fan of TED Talks. Jump on the TED Talks. This is a guy over here named Don Tapscott. It's called, he wrote a book called Blockchain Revolution. It's a great place to start. His TED Talk is terrific. There's some other great ones on there, one by a woman named Jane McGonigal, who's a leading game theorist at the Institute for the Future. And she did a great talk at South by Southwest you might want to check out too. So very cool new technology. You're going to have to learn a whole new interesting set of terminology and buzzwords like distributed ledger and smart contract, initial coin offerings, the notion of tokens and coins and values, and we exchange these things in a blockchain. The different models, Hyperledger is the open source model that we're using for our cloud service, but there are others, one called Ethereum, miners, and proof of work. This is the language of the next 10 years, 20 years of blockchain industry. And I encourage you all to take a look at some of the terminology and the technology behind it. This is another architectural diagram of our cloud service, which launches this summer and basically bundles up the Hyperledger Fabric blockchain infrastructure and bundles a whole bunch of services around it to make it very easy to use for enterprises. And so you'll see this in the news this summer, and we're just starting some interesting work around it. And I think you'll find it a really compelling new technology from Oracle in our cloud that hopefully complements the current work that you're doing with Academy. And we know that you're living in a different time. You know, back many years ago, you know, you used to be able to go to college, get a degree, get a job, and that was your job for life. And things are changing now. Now we're in what's called the gig economy, and there are new jobs and new skills and these technologies that can get you a job and all kinds of, with all different kinds of credentials. And I'm sure you're busy, you know, exploring those different avenues, and Oracle's happy to help you along that journey. That's what the societies around the world and countries are struggling with is tomorrow's workforce, the Internet of Tomorrow, and how blockchain and mobility and the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence will play out. But you're the folks that are going to build that revolution and the next startups and the next jobs. We're excited to help you do that, and this is just an example of one of the projects that we're working on with the Cal State University system called the Entertainment Alliance. And industry's changing, believe it or not, just as fast as things seem to change in school. And so we're trying to shrink that gap between what the skills that people like Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks need in their workforce and the students coming out of the Cal State University system. So we're looking at custom certifications and programs based on Oracle technologies that I just mentioned and showcasing those at a conference called Digital Hollywood. So if you're interested in the entertainment industry and you want to learn skill sets and the killer new technologies to do that, these are some of the new ways that Oracle is working with a community to do that. So I hope some of these new technologies are of interest to you. These are the ones that we're investing in and bringing to the market and bringing to the planet. The pace of innovation never slows down, and Oracle's with you guys all the way. So thank you for all the great work that you're doing, for your interest in working with Oracle. My contact info will be available if you have any questions or if I can help on any of the things that we talked about. I hope it's been useful, and I hope you have a great journey and a great day. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Bye now.